remember back when me and my brother got our first GameCube, we played that thing constantly. Whether it be speeding through Sonic Adventure 2, beating the crap out of each other in Smash Bros. Melee, or working together in LEGO Star Wars. It was always a damn good time. However, one day, when spending time with one of my brother's friends, I found a game on his shelf. Battalion Wars. Though I was already familiar at this point with war games, thanks to Halo and Dawn of War, I don't really know what drew me to this one. But I asked if I could borrow it, and my brother's friend said sure. I beat it that day, much to his and my brother's shock. And for some reason, this game stuck with me. For years, whenever I could borrow it or rent it, I did, and I would have a blast all the way through it. Hell, when its sequel came out in 2007 and I played it at a friend's house, it just told me more and more about how much I loved these two games. Then it fell off the face of the universe. I didn't really know why, and I just sort of forgot about it. Until I found it and its sequel at a used game store years later. I got my hands on both copies, and I regularly go back to the games when I find myself in the mood to play them, which is basically a yearly thing. But now that I am much older, how well have these games held up? And why did they fail and fall off the face of the universe? For starters, Battalion Wars was basically a new interpretation of Nintendo's Famicon Wars, which was just what we would know later as Advanced Wars on the Nintendo Game Boy. Nintendo would hire Kuju Entertainment to make Battalion Wars for the GameCube. Now who the fuck is Kuju Entertainment? Ah, fuck. Well, Battalion Wars did come out a year after Fire Warriors, so at least they could learn from those mistakes. Plus, you gotta remember, who the hell was playing GameCube for shooters and strategy games anyway? It wasn't a good mix, even though the game got favorable reviews across the board. So, something was working. However, what I want to do is take you through a journey, going over each mission, the story, and gameplay of Battalion Wars, and its sequel in another video, and see how well this game has held up over the years. I want to know if it's my nostalgia blinding me to its faults, or if this is a buried gem in the mess that was the GameCube. So, let's get into it.
The demilitarized zone on the border between the western frontier and the Tundran territory. For months now, the site of an uneasy truce between two mighty armies. This is a waiting game, with both sides primed to retaliate in the event of a preemptive strike. But on this historic day, control of the Tundran Empire passes from the iron grip of Tsar Gorgi into the more progressive hands of his son and heir, Marshal Nova. And with Nova in charge, there are those who dare to whisper that this time, peace might just endure.
So, we find ourselves now in a rather strange position. The Western Frontier is the faction we play through the whole game, with very much American/Canadian-inspired military designs. We are in an uneasy peace with our neighbor, the Tundran Territories, an aggressively Russian/Slavic-inspired force. Though, luckily, as the first cutscene laid out for us, peace times might just endure. Fat load of good that'll do us. The first mission we are dropped into is a live combat exercise where we are introduced to one of our 3 COs, and taught the basics. Our CO for this mission is Brigadier Betty, a peppy cheerleader of a CO who teaches us how to move, shoot, and aim, which shows an immediate problem a lot of people are going to have. Tank controls. Tank controls, for those who aren't in the know, means you don't move naturally. You have to fully turn in place in order to move left and right. Granted, we can still move left and right while locked onto enemy units, which just confuses me. Why can't we move fucking normally? Why are we stuck with tank controls? Either way, I can make this work, but I know others are going to struggle with it. Now that we understand the basics of controls, we are sent out on patrol to do a routine check on the border with Tundra, and I doubt we'll find anything worrying. Ah, fuck. Well, it looks like the Tundrans have set up spy gear all throughout the area, and as we destroy their listening posts and spy balloons, we find that the guy who set all this crap up killed one of our guys. Which isn't good. Even worse, we find out that the Tundrans took one of our scout units hostage. Though luckily we get 3 additional rifle grunts, and we are quickly taught how to control them. By locking onto an enemy target and pressing Y, you can send your soldiers to attack that target, and they will keep attacking that target until you or your enemy are dead. Or you call them back. Keep that in mind for later. Once we take out the Tundran guards and free our scout unit, we quickly discover that it wasn't just Tundran spies running around. It's a whole-ass invasion force led by the former Tundran leader Sar Gorgi, who claims his actions speak for his peace-loving son. Although I'm pressing X to doubt that, you fucking boomer! And we complete the first mission, leading us to the results screen. The results screen basically shows how well you did in the mission, judging you on 3 things: speed, power, and technique. Basically, how fast you completed the mission, how much the enemy you destroyed during the mission, and how many of your units you kept alive till the end of the mission. Depending on how well you did, you get a rank from C to S, with S rank being only achieved with a stat being at 95 or higher. These ranks actually do something, but again, we'll get into that later. We also get a unit dossier explaining the humble rifle grunt, the most common infantryman we get in the game, who is good for ganging up on targets or capturing stuff, but not much else. There are very few missions in the game where we don't even get one of these little guys. Then we are taken to the map screen. The map lets us pick our missions, and this leads us into Mission 2. Mission 2 is led by General Herman, a small man with a big ego who tells us that we need to counter the Tundran advance into our territory. Here we learn how to control a growing force of troops, and how to use emplacements like the MG Nest. You also learn how cover works in the game. If you stand behind a fallen object or sandbags, and hold R, you can reduce incoming damage, so long as it isn't explosive. As well, we get access to our first of many tanks, the Light Tank, a decent all-rounder unit capable of taking on most ground targets. Once we blow through Gorgi's defenses, we move on to Mission 3. Here we get another cutscene where it turns out Gorgi was full of shit. As Nova, his son and current leader of the Tundran territories, didn't know anything about the invasion and surely didn't order an attack into the western frontier. Hell, he even emphasizes that Gorgi didn't have the authority to command any forces. Great! Which means we can wash away this misunderstanding before anything gets worse.
Nelly, take control of those units. It seems we are at war.
This is why we can't have nice things. Mission 3 pits our cool and collected Colonel Austin against Tundra's Major Nelly at Windbreak Ridge. Here we are ordered to defend our outpost from Tundran attack, and introduces us to our first lose condition. If the enemy takes the flag, we lose instantly, even if we still have infantry on the ground. Luckily, we are introduced to a new unit, the Bazooka Veterans. Bazooka Vets are our anti-armor infantry, and though their rate of fire is poor, making them a shit option against infantry unless they are at point-blank range, they are great at destroying ground vehicles and in-place positions like MG Nests, so we can at least stamp out the armored assault and complete Mission 3 much easier. Jumping into Mission 4 shows that we have something exciting. It's a time-sensitive mission. First, we liberate a captured recon vehicle, much like in Mission 1, but here we are put on a timer, so we have to take control of the recon and rush to the other side of the map. The recon is fast and drives much like the Halo Warthog if I had to compare it to anything, but we can see that the controls work way better when it comes to vehicles. So if you get a vehicle in a mission, I strongly recommend hopping in one. Here we are introduced to enemy tanks and gunships? Yeah, if any of these things get a lock on us, we are screwed. Luckily, the recon can outrun both tanks and gunships, and with a bit of clever driving, we make it to our objective and are introduced to our new anti-air veterans. Anti-air vets are, as the name suggests, anti-air units, who, although they have to charge up their missile barrage, they make quick work of gunships and other air units. Heck, they can even do some impressive damage to armored units on the ground if they're close enough. If they're not, you'll find your missiles shooting all over the place. So, be careful about that. Mission 5 gives us a new objective, and of course, a new unit type. We are ordered to capture the enemy fortress by either taking its flag or eliminating all units on the map. There are also captured flame veterans that we have to liberate, who will burn out all infantry units they come across. Mission 5 is where we are basically given free reign to do what we want and command how we want, as we have a big enough force to think things through. As well, if you pause the game, you can bring up a tactical map of the area and see enemy units. This allows you to make a plan of attack before committing your forces, which is really helpful. You can see what paths enemy units are on and what types of units they are, so that you can send in units that counter those enemies, making for a wide variety of plans. Once we clear out the fortress, or take its flag, we move on to Mission 6. Mission 6 is a bit of a doozy and puts your organizing and command skills to the test, as you are tasked with hunting down and killing 8 enemy heavy tanks, which we do, but now I have to talk about a major problem here. Your army. You see, Battalion Wars was on GameCube, and we all remember that AI back in the day was not the best, even if it was your friend. Multiple times I found my infantry getting stuck on one another, standing there not doing anything, and just not attacking enemy units I had clearly ordered them to attack, which, for an RTS, can be extremely aggravating for most players. Although, I understand that it's impressive that on GameCube, we have this many character models on screen with little slowdown. But, due to its age, I can see the cracks in the foundation. But, we push on through, leading us to Mission 7. Mission 7 is where the game changes, as we get another cutscene of Gorgi meeting with a vampire? This is Kaiser Vlad, leader of the nation Exylvania, a Germanic vampire country. Gorgi makes a deal with Vlad to help his son win the war, which then cuts to us in said mission. We are to take 3 encamped positions that the Tundrans have set up, and are given 2 more new units, artillery and assault vets. Assault vets are heavy machine gun troops who are effective at taking down enemy infantry and light vehicles from long to close range. Hell, they can even take down gunships. While artillery is one of the most powerful ranged vehicles we have, at the cost of being unable to directly attack enemy units, and being extremely weak to air attack. But with some smart shelling of enemy positions, and defending our tanks, we quickly capture the enemy camps, and all is right with the world.
Wait a second! That's the Exylvanian crest on those bombers! What the heck is going on?
Greetings from Exylvania, Tsar Gorgi. Kaiser Vlad has chosen to decline your offer of an alliance and make war on both your armies instead.
Why do I open my mouth? Yeah, it turns out that the Exylvanians have reneged on their deal with Gorgi and have decided that since both sides have weakened each other enough, they can sweep in and take both out, leading to the western frontier and Tundran territories having to team up to stop Exylvania and its leader, Kaiser Vlad, from taking over the world.
Of course!
Leading us into the Dune Sea campaign. Wait, what's that? Oh yeah. Remember those grades you can get by completing missions with certain scores? If you keep getting consistently high scores, you can unlock what-if missions, which let you take control of other armies' units. This lets you experience what it's like to use other armies' stuff, and see how they play and what they are like. Fun little side missions overall, but not worth it for the amount of work needed to unlock them. Though we now move on to the Dune Sea campaign. Here we are mostly fighting in barren rock and desert environments, which is a nice change of pace from the forests and mountains of the Tundran territories. Mission 8 is another defensive mission, where we are given control over a heavy recon. Basically, it's just a better armored version of the recon unit from earlier. But we are fully introduced to the other 2 commanders of the Exylvanians, Commandant Ubel and Countess Ingrid, who are conducting an assault on our fort. Here, the game tries to teach you about setting units up in defensive positions, and it naturally has 2 hills you can position your artillery units on, but what I find easier to do is just use the natural choke point of your base to funnel enemy units in and let your artillery in the back lay waste. Overall, an annoying mission. Mission 9 gives us yet another defensive mission, but this time with allies in the form of Tundran grunts and a single anti-air veteran. We also get 2 new units in the form of the anti-air tank and the new heavy tank, a slower but harder hitting tank. Here we are supposed to defend the Tundran garrison from an endless onslaught of Exylvanian tanks and gunships. And here is where my problem with friendly AI is just exacerbated, as I found my allies just sitting there doing fuck all, even if they are getting shot at. So all my allies are good for is just sitting there and being meat shields. Great. But once we hold the garrison for a certain amount of time, we are ordered to fall back to a new position for the transports to evacuate us. And luckily, we don't need to worry about all of our allies making it there. Going into Mission 10, we are back on offense, being given the job of taking out an enemy resource extraction base. This mission is actually really cool, because at the beginning of the mission, you are tasked with destroying as many grounded enemy gunships as possible before the enemy tanks come in to scare you off. If you are quick enough, you can destroy all of the enemy gunships, and later when the enemy calls for reinforcements, they won't get any, or they will only get what you didn't kill. As well, we finally get access to our first air unit, the gunship, a good all-arounder air unit. Once we capture the 3 enemy flags and take the extraction facility, we move on to Mission 11. Mission 11, Black Gold, is the last mission in the Dune Sea campaign, and here we are given our last new infantry unit, the Mortar Veteran. Mortar Veterans are anti-ground units, and are best at clearing enemy units out of cover. Here we have to eliminate enemy anti-air positions so that we can use our bombers to destroy enemy extraction drills. When we finally do, we get control of our bombers, which are fucking terrifying with how powerful they are. But the Exylvanians respond with fighter support, and since we don't have anti-air units to cover our bombers, we are sunk. Until Gorgi comes back into the story and has his personal fighter squadron defend our bombers. Or in this case, fly around and do nothing. But we eventually destroy the extraction sites, and we get a new cutscene where Gorgi is killed by Commandant Ubu. Which leads me into another main complaint of the game, the story. Battalion Wars, when it gets to the Dune Sea campaign, is moving a fucking mile a minute, and we are given barely any time to, learn the story and the characters in it. And the cutscenes move by so fucking fast, it kinda leaves you bewildered. In this case, Gorgi coming back suddenly after being gone for the majority of the game. We get very little development with not just enemy COs, but ours as well. So when Gorgi is killed, it's done so fast that, well, I don't honestly care. The old boomer started a war, got his own people attacked from a stupid deal he made, and got us dragged into this problem. So why the fuck should I care if he sent his fighter squadron to help us in one mission? If the game slowed down and gave its characters time to breathe, I'd understand and be more sympathetic to what is happening. But we don't get a whole lot until the second game. So for now, fuck you, Gorgi! Completing the Dune Sea campaign pushes us in the Coral Atolls Liberation, where we get a new ally in the form of the Solar Empire, an army with a very Asian-influenced design, which is much more futuristic than what we are packing. But the first mission in this campaign is fucking bullshit! Mission 12 X-Day is fucking horrible. There are 2 enemy artillery unit tanks at the top of the beach at the start of the mission, hidden behind barbed wire, which infantry can't get over, meaning that you have to use the 2 light tanks to break those fences. But there are anti-tank and flamethrower units generously sprinkled all over the place, slowing you down and forcing your infantry into a bottleneck to get bombarded. And whatever you don't kill on the beach chases after you for the rest of the mission, where you get bombarded by gunships and more artillery units, with the last part of the mission giving us a new air unit, the fighter jet, which we use to shoot down enemy gunships, and a super air unit called a Strato Destroyer. We can do it, but fuck this mission! Mission 13 is a much better mission, as we are tasked with taking a comms array, a fuel depot, and to destroy a munitions dump, along with freeing allied units for the Solar Empire, which again, they are just extra meat bags. Mission 14 is entirely an air mission, where we give cover to a platoon of grunts trying to recapture an island for the Solar Empire. This mission can be a bit stressful, as you have to juggle killing fighter jets along with keeping your bombers on task, killing tanks and artillery units throughout the island. But once you free a group of gunships that have been taken prisoner, it makes the mission much more manageable, and with a final hurrah, we are given our own Strato Destroyer near the end to mop up any leftover resistance. Mission 15 is a bit of a bitch due to how it's laid out, but it's still really fun. Here we are introduced to the strongest ground unit in the game, the Battle Station, a super tank that will absolutely murder any ground unit it looks at, though the tank is the slowest out of all ground units and has no way to defend itself from air attack. So we have to use our friendly gunship to take care of it. But it turns out that the mission isn't that simple, as they have a second battle station heading towards our base with fighter jet cover. So gunships are useless until we deal with those. So the mission becomes a race to the base, where we have to make sure our gunship doesn't get shot down by enemy AA and fighter jets, while getting our hands onto anti-air tanks of our own. Once we get them and blow away the enemy fighters, we have to use our new gunships to destroy the last battle station. Ending this mission, though, gets us a rather peculiar cutscene with the Exylvanians, with Vlad telling Ingrid about an ancient army called the Iron Legion. Apparently long ago, Exylvania was set to take over the world, but due to the actions of the Solar Empire, they were stopped. Vlad mentions that the Empire called down the power of the sun on the Legion to defeat them, and Ingrid implies that they should summon the souls of their ancestors to fight for them. But Vlad shuts that idea down hard and fast. So in one cutscene, we get a whole lot of setup right the fuck out of nowhere, with talks of summoning and bringing back the dead, which is a lot to drop on us 75% deep into the game. But something to keep in mind was that comment about the power of the sun. Might be important later. This cutscene, though, leads us into Mission 16, the last mission in the Coral Atolls, where we get the power of the Battle Station. The Battle Station is super effective against most unit types, but since it's a massive target, it will take lots of shots and damage over the course of the mission. Luckily, we get a bomber, and using both of them in tandem lets us clear out the last few islands of Exylvanian resistance and push them out of the Solar Empire and back into Exylvania itself. However, it becomes clear that Ingrid is interested in the power of the Iron Legion, and again mentions they should summon them to assist in the defense of their homeland. But Vlad, again, shoots that idea down, saying the Legion cannot be controlled. Mission 17 leads us into Exylvania itself, where we are put into a timed mission to capture 3 comm stations while under bomber and artillery fire for the entire mission. This is where a lot of my problems with Battalion Wars comes to a fucking head. Constantly, I found my units either getting stuck on one another, not firing at targets I ordered them to, or units blocking each other and stopping them from firing on targets. This led to a lot of unfair deaths and failures that I had little to no control over. And it doesn't help that the area is nothing but canyons that bottleneck you. Overall, not a fun mission. But we do learn that Ubel and Ingrid have abandoned their posts, as Vlad was the CO in command for some reason. This leads us into a cutscene where we see that Ingrid has stolen Vlad's sword, and has tricked Ubel into helping her summon the Iron Legion back from the dead, which leads to a horrified Vlad recalling his troops in Mission 18. This mission gives us control of the battle station again, but this is also where we engage in combat against the Iron Legion and Exylvanians. Seems like Vlad was right about the Legion being uncontrollable, as the Legion is attacking everyone. We find that Exylvanian artillery was pointed in the opposite direction, and we see both Legion and Exylvanian units fighting each other. But the point of this mission is to bring down a monument of Kaiser Vlad, which only the battle station can do. So our job is to get the battle station safely to its target while fighting off Legion forces. Mission 19 is putting an end to the Legion threat, and again, another annoying fucking mission. Here we are to shut down the Legion for good by destroying their access to the mortal realm. The problem with this mission, again, becomes your allies not doing anything. Your units get bottlenecked and not responding to orders, and an endlessly respawning army. My only solution to this mission was just rushing it down and using the heavy tank to circle the enemy Cenotaph and destroying it as I play Ring Around the fucking Rosie, which we destroy the fucking portal and the Legion is stopped. Yay! Going on a quick tangent here, there was literally no reason or purpose to having the Iron Legion in this game. They only show up for 2 missions. They're only mentioned at the start of the end of the Coral Atolls campaign, and again, we only fight them for 2 missions and get to play them in 1 what-if mission. Their entire purpose in this game, I have no fucking clue what it is. We're also told that Iron Legion units hit way harder than any other unit in the game, and I haven't seen that, mostly because whenever I got hit by them, it would do the same amount of damage as any other unit that would hit me. So, I don't really see a point in these guys being here. But, they would get fleshed out more in the game's sequel, but that's neither here nor there. Before we get into the final mission, let's look at the what-if missions, because if I can avoid talking about the final mission just a little bit longer, I'm gonna fucking do it! The what-if missions are just that, non-canon what-ifs of missions where we play as the opposite side from previous missions. In the first mission, we take control of the Tundran army, fighting the western frontier and eliminating frontier units in Mission 6. The second mission we play as the Exylvanians, chasing the Tundrans out of Dusty Springs back in Mission 9. The third mission has us playing as the Solar Empire, pushing Exylvanians off their island back in Mission 15, while the last what-if gives us control over the Iron Legion, wiping out Exylvanian Western Frontier resistance from old Exylvania. All these missions are fun and allow us to experience what control in the other army is like, and I had very little problems with these missions, except for the Solar Empire one, mostly because of fucking unit bullshit. But then, there is Mission 20. Fuck this mission! This mission is bullshit from the opening gate and is the ultimate fucking example of my problems with this game. Bottlenecks, tight corridors, AI getting stuck, useless fucking allies, and bullshit difficulty because you are stuck with 3 light tanks and 24 infantry troops with some Tundra gunship support, which is the only way to destroy the 2 fucking battle stations at the top of the hill! We have to capture the 2 flags at the very top to win. But with all these problems this mission puts you through, the best idea I had, again, was to rush the line and not stop moving. I had to redo this mission 5 times, and luckily on my 5th attempt, I got an S rank. But fuck this mission! Then, the game just ends. We get a cutscene where Vlad escapes and Ubel is captured, but that's it. Vlad gets away, and we get Nova doing the "Be prepared for war in peacetimes" quote, and game goes back to title screen.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
And that's Battalion Wars 1. Let's talk about the bad first. As I said, this game was on GameCube, which impressively could have lots of character models on screen with very little slowdown. However, the constant problems with my units not doing what I tell them, allies being useless, and the amount of times I have failed to complete objectives because my units were just being stupid, really shows this game's age. As well, when the final stretch of the game is just annoying to deal with as they exacerbated the AI problems, it makes it not really worth playing all the way through. Battalion Wars has not aged well over the years, and it really fucking sucks to say that. Despite my problems with the AI and the final 4 missions, I still really enjoy Battalion Wars. The game just has this charm to it with its more cartoony style, and each army design is so much fun. Plus, I can tell that this game needs to be played on original hardware to be appreciated. All that said, would I recommend this game to anyone, even with how I played it on an emulator? Not really. If you are a fan of RTS and third-person shooters, it won't hurt to give it a shot. But to anyone else, I just don't know if you'd enjoy it, which sucks. I still love this game deeply, but I am not blind to its very obvious faults. But remember, this game got a sequel, which means it did well enough. And to be fair, the sequel fixes all my problems with this game and more. So when we come back, we will talk about Battalion Wars 2 for the Wii. See you guys next time.
War is a contact sport, gentlemen. Sack that defensive line.
Go, go, go!